Hey everybody, it's Blake,
And this is Rue.
and you're listening to the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Controllers podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 129 of the podcast. We're actually doing a bit of a small walkthrough podcast history on this episode by talking about a game that we've talked about on episode 1.
Yes.
Yeah, we're hoping to do a little more justice, but before we get into that, you can find us on all of the social media platforms just by searching the podcast name. There you can keep track of the coming and going into the podcast. It's mostly just posts about when we go live for our Twitch streams, because I'm not good at keeping up with social media, but you can contact us on there if you have anything you want to say to the podcast about past episodes or current episodes or anything else going on with video games that you're curious about what we think about with the video games, with said video games. So we have opinion. Like, we don't talk about current video game events normally, but we have opinions on them if y'all want to hear them. We're just not on the pulse of every little thing. It's just not what this podcast is about. You know, it's not like a news podcast or anything like that. But if you're curious about our thoughts on things like that, we'll be happy to share them on the podcast if anybody wants to hear them. Like I said, the most important thing we want people to come to is our Twitch streams with our cousin / podcast editor, Brian. We're in a bit of a flux there as we come off of a game that broke, War Tales, which our co-op save corrupted and failed. We were really enjoying that game, but once after that failed, we decided to start Googling War Tales, and there's about a 100% chance that your co-op save corrupts, it seems.
As far as I could tell, it says that the majority of co-op saves fail, but the single player works perfectly. And I don't know why that is, but...
Yeah, so we lost 20 odd hours or something of play, and then we kind of floundered into figuring out what to play next. We played a few nights of Warhammer Vermintide, and that we weren't really getting much anywhere in that, because the game levels have 0 checkpoints, and if you play a level for 45 minutes and then die, it's like, try again? And we were like, no thanks.
Yeah.
So there's that. And ironically, we had because we didn't know we can all get our hands on Vermintide. We had initially installed that same company's newest game, Darktide, which the name's not too far from the other name, Warhammer Darktide. It's got multiple different names on it now too, because it's got new patches and stuff. And we managed on the same night where we quit playing Vermintide, we all kind of ran through the prologue of Darktide. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we are now. We're going to see about playing more Darktide on our Twitch streams to see where that goes. What we're trying to avoid doing is just pivoting right into another Dark Souls game, as that's like the most fun we have when we play games together. Me, Blake, and Brian. This is playing. We played Dark Souls 3, but waited a long time, trying not to do right into Dark Souls 2, and we're trying right again to not do that again, because we're trying to play other games.
Other things.
Other games. Is this what we're trying to do? It's hard to find good co-op games. So if you got any good co-op suggestions that are like really, like, it could be a lot of fun, or you'd like to see us play.
I mean, they just got to be fun to play. The story can be whatever.
We don't. If you watch, we don't even listen to the story of anything. We don't have time. Like, and also Twitch streaming, I just don't think, unless you're like a single player person playing to share the story with people, I just don't think you want to sit there while 3 guys are gabbing over a plot line that nobody really cares about. So
at least none of the ones we've played.
Yeah, we don't listen to none of the stories. So if you got a good co-op idea, we know most games. Like, we're kind of like, between me, Blake, and Brian, we know all the games. Me and Brian, I think, know more than what Blake pays attention to. We know all the co-op games and stuff that are really out there. But we're not talking like go online shooting folks. We're not doing Halo. We're not doing Call of Duty. We're not doing stuff like that. We want a co-op game for all 3 of us to kind of play together and have an adventure together. Yeah. And we're trying to not do Dark Souls right now. Yeah. I've been looking at the new what got a remake, Fallen, what's it called?
Oh, Lords of the Fallen.
Lords of the Fallen has a really good remake or rebranding of the first game. Apparently that's got, and it has co-op now because the original didn't. Been eyeballing that. We've been eyeballing Remnant 2. Me and Blake played Remnant 2 together way back when it was first out. Remnant 1, sorry. It'd be nice to have Brian around for Remnant 2. We pretty much really enjoyed that first game. So
did we do Remnant 2 on the podcast?
Remnant 1?
Oh, Remnant 1. I know we did Chronos from the Ashes.
We did Chronos from the Ashes, which is the same developer.
But I don't know if we did.
I don't know if we did Remnant 1 on the podcast either.
Because regardless, this isn't the Remnant podcast, but it has the best dog in video game history. The good boy.
Good boy. So maybe we'll do that. I've been trying to, and we try to like not go from shooter to shooter to shooter. We try to like go from shooter to something else. So we've been kind of doing a little bit of come off Dark Souls 2, which is swords. We probably should have done more shooting, but I don't know. We're in a weird flux.
We've actually played like 3 or 4 things.
Oh, that's right, because we played Exo Primal
one night.
We played one night of Exo. I forgot about Exo Primal, because Exo Primal sucks. Of all the Capcom successes, which we talked on this podcast on our Mega Man episode, we even forgot to bring up Exo Primal on the.
It's not for us, but I think it is successful. People are playing it. It's just not.
It's still active. So anyway,
me to get to the actual game.
Yeah. So anyway, if you got anything for us for that, a really good co-op game, let us know. Just holler us on any of the social media. If you want to come to the Twitch streams, you can come there and talk about games too and give us some other suggestions. But come to twitch.tv/2 Smoking Controllers and we'll be live. We're pretty good about doing Wednesdays unless life gets in the way. I'm pretty sure coming up a Wednesday. I think Christmas is on a Wednesday. So, or either Eve or Christmas is on a Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, Eve.
So we probably won't be doing it that week just because of obvious reasons, unless by Wednesday night we can all get away. We'll see what happens. But just follow us on there and you know how we go live. We also, last thing of course, is our store and our Patreon page. We all have those. If you have a podcast, you probably have those. Those are just help us support the cost of maintaining the podcast. The Patreon page, however, you can get on there and you get the episodes a week early, unedited and stuff like that. And you have a chance to name an episode. We'd love to have somebody come on there and help us name an episode. We like big, long, silly names, but it's really hard to do consistently because we're not
funny.
Professional. We're not funny. We're not professional comedians. But we'd like big, long, silly names for the episodes.
Because part of us is not big and long, but it is funny when they laugh at it.
Speaking of one of us, you come to the Patreon.
Look, the silence is deafening.
You come to the Patreon for that, and I think Blake has released, because we haven't got it ready for YouTube yet, Blake has released his entire unedited anything like that. If you want to watch Blake sleep for 45 minutes, there is all his episodes of his playthrough of RoboCop Rogue City are now on our Patreon page. He will editing out the sleeping on YouTube. Believe me, you don't want to miss that.
Mm-hmm. We have started. I have started slinging some of our stuff on YouTube.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot. He's pulling our
starting with War Tales.
Starting with War Tales, we do have our Patreon playthroughs. He's starting to make playlists and stuff like that, and pulling and releasing episodes of that onto our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel actually has stuff on it now. If you want to see, if you don't have time to go to the Twitch streams, and if you just want to pop in and check out a video and see what the games look like we're talking about, or see us, because we do a rotating, instead of having all of us on camera, which is probably a complicated thing to do, we just do a rotating person of who's hosting the Twitch channel. And as you'll see me, Blake, or Brian, each taking turns having our ugly mugs on screen while we play a video game. With that said, we've meandered in this for a long time, and we've got technically two games to talk about. So we got to get into that right about now.
So the game that we're talking about...
Games.
Since it's kind of a retouching of our very first episode, we are doing
Wild Arms.
Technically, yeah, we're doing Wild Arms 1 and Wild Arms Alter Code F. Since the first episode, I have played through Wild Arms 1, and Drew and I have both touched on Alter Code F. I finished it. I don't think Drew did.
No, I didn't finish Alter Code F.
There are reasons. We will get into them.
Yeah.
That being said, the cool thing is, even though that it's a remake, the original developers were still attached. We have actually spoken about them quite a bit, so I'm just going to do a quick, just over thing. They are developed by Media Vision. Media Vision was founded in March 1st of 93 out of Tokyo, Japan. As of this year, 2024, they have 155 employees, which is it's a nice little solid number from the work on everything. They have done a total of 31 games. The games that we've actually spoken about on the podcast are Episode 1, with Wild Arms. Episode 4 was a game I played but didn't finish called Summon Night 6. Episode 27, they did Shining Resonance. Now, we haven't spoken about Shining Resonance. We spoke about the uptick, the remaster, something called Shining Resonance for Frame, which was technically developed by another company called O2, but they worked off the base that Media Vision started.
They added a little content.
Yeah. They added like the 2 extra characters.
Kind of like another company doing a port.
And then the other thing, episode 45, which was a Gamefly episode, we did Valkyria Revolution.
Which I don't think I played at all.
No, you didn't. It was all me. Besides that, there is another game that I have played all the way through, both of them, and it was the Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory. They did that, which I've thought about doing on the podcast, but I don't think Drew finished his playthrough, but it's also been a long time.
It's been a long time since you played it, and one of us playing, obviously, as y'all hear from like Midnight Suns, that does not stop us from talking about something if only one of us played it. Yeah. I dabbled in, what's the first one? Cyber Sleuth. I dabbled and just kind of got bored.
And 2 other things, of course, the entire Wild Arms series, 1 through 5, and then the PSP game.
They did all 5 and the PSP game. Wow.
Yeah, XF, I think it's called.
Which is weird. Well, I would say it's weird because the franchise changes so much, but I guess the same thing could be said about Final Fantasy. So I guess it's not weird for them to develop the entire franchise, and it changed so much.
And then another thing that seems to be mobile only. I think you can get ports of it, but it's a mobile only called the Chaos Ring series, and there's like 4 or 5 of those.
Yeah, I wonder if they got, because I've heard really good things about Chaos Rings, but I'm not playing a phone RPG.
Maybe you can find it and get it like on your computer or something.
I wonder if it got ported to anything else.
I'll have to do some.
I feel like I really saw it on the 3DS network at one point, but it doesn't matter because that's now dead.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, that's kind of cool. They did Chaos Rings. I didn't know that was them as well. Before we move on to the games themselves, because we've talked about Media Vision a bunch of times, I imagine. Does it have anything? Do you have anything current?
They actually hold on.
It's been a while since the Digimon games.
Yeah, they've been working on stuff consistently. Like I said, from '94 when their first game came out called Crime Crackers, and then they've kind of just been making 1 game a year or every 2 years. Once we got to bigger consoles like PlayStation and Xbox, so on, it started taking 2 to 3 years. Yeah. But they have been consistently every 2 to 3 years been putting out a game. And then they hit 2018, which was Valkyria Chronicles 4, and they didn't do anything until next year, 2025. And there's a Switch Windows thing coming out called the 100 Line Last Defense Academy, and it's a tactical RPG. And they co-developed that one with a company called T-Koyo Games. But T-Koyo actually, during the making of it, went into a massive amount of debt and went bankrupt. I don't know that story. And Media Vision stepped in to finish their game for them and put it out. Even putting themselves as second build.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know what
come
happened.
Out next year. That might not come to America, or who knows?
It says its release is April 24th, 2025. And
that's my birthday.
Yeah, that is. So I don't know. It just says it's going to come out next year. It says it is going to come out. It was announced on a Nintendo Direct, and it will be announced. It's scheduled for release.
Tactical RPG thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it says it is going to be distributed in the West by Exceed Games. So it is coming.
Look at that. I mean, we like tactical RPGs. Not thrilled about it being only on the Switch if it is, but we'll keep an eye out for it.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't their fault. The 2 Koyo Games were working on the game, and their original publisher pulled out, and it caused them to fall into it. It doesn't say they went bankrupt. It says they fell into extreme debt, and then Media Vision came in to help. And then they got some Aniplex, of all things. Aniplex, the people, and they came in to help as a publisher.
That's weird.
So that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
So fingers crossed, maybe it'll be cool. You know, sometimes games that struggle in a long time, they're surprise hits, and I look forward to playing it.
I guess the other thing to talk about would be Armed Fantasia. which isn't MediaVision.
It's not MediaVision.
It supposedly consists of some old MediaVision employees.
Well, I was going to get to that. Actually, I'll go ahead and just get to it now. I will talk about the game's director, a person named Akifuma Kanko, and they have been involved with everything Wild Arms. Like, which is kind of, that's not necessarily kind of strange, because you're like, oh, they level up. He's sometimes the CEO or the producer, but he has been the scenario screenplay writer for Wild Arms 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as the director for 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the writer for Armed Fantasia and the game designer, and he's also part of something called Symphono Gear, which he created the manga for, and he drew the manga. And that got an anime, in 2013. He was also the level designer and lead game designer for Alter Code F. So he's attached to his baby.
He's a Wild Arms guy.
Mm-hmm. And he has something coming up now, 2025, called Princessian Orchestra. I don't know what that is, but it's upcoming. So dude's still working, and he's
busy. He's part of the Armed Fantasia project.
Mm-hmm.
So, Armed Fantasia, if you don't know, was a fairly successful Kickstarter. For him, they're doing pretty much a spiritual successor to the Wild Arms franchise, because I don't know who owns Wild Arms IP, but obviously not him, because otherwise he would be calling it Wild Arms 6 or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's called Armed Fantasia. From what you can gather from what they're talking about and the Kickstarter, which we gave to, we wanted it because it was weird. It's a double Kickstarter. Armed Fantasia seems to be doing better. There was a double Kickstarter for Armed Fantasia and a game called
Penny Blood.
Which Penny Blood is I was kind of more excited about, was a spiritual successor to the Shadow Hearts franchise. Mm-hmm. It seems to be floundering a bit, trying to find a publisher. That one does, Penny Blood, because we get the emails about what's going on. The Armed Fantasia emails are just annoyingly. I stopped reading a lot of them because the little production emails are pretty much they just talk about the weather for half the email. I don't know if you read them, and then we get some concept art and stuff like that. The concept art looks cool, but when they talk about actual stuff about the game, it does sound like they got all the characters and they've all got their tools and they're building an overworld map, and like it has all the makings of a new Wild Arms game is pretty much what Armed Fantasia is planning on being. So it's kind of back. There's no release date for that game yet, but it's cool to see, especially if it's the same guy. Pretty much the daddy of Wild Arms is still trying to take care of it.
And the other cool thing is someone who's been there since the beginning as well is their composer Michiko Naruka.
Yeah, very famous. Early Wild Arms 1 and 2 have really famous soundtracks.
And she has been the composer for every Wild Arms except for the PSP one, the XF. Mm-hmm. But she did 1, 2, 3, Alter Code F, 4, and 5. And she is reprising on Armed Fantasia.
Really cool.
Yeah, so she's done that. She's also been a part of a couple other things. She has done several of the arrangements for Super Smash Brothers. That is Brawl.
There's a lot of composers involved with that.
Brawl and Ultimate. And it's weird because I don't think there's a single Wild Arms thing on there, but she's done a bunch of different...
I'm sure her career goes out of Wild Arms.
Yeah, but she's done a bunch of different medleys.
Is it a woman? Sorry, we keep saying she. Okay, making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure she's worked outside of Wild Arms,
But she has done, Brawl, Wii U, and Ultimate. So she didn't do the original, but she's been working on all the others.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, lots of music to deal with in the Smash Brothers franchise, so you need a lot of composers' help, I'm sure.
And like I said, it's really cool that she and him are coming back. Yeah. So I think that's
fingers crossed. I'm going to say, I told Blake the other day that when I've played through 1, I've played through a bit of Alter Code F, and for a future episode, I've actually played through Wild Arms 2 already. I have not really enjoyed any of it. So I have come to think that maybe when I was I say it out here, nostalgia is poison for a lot of stuff like Legend of Dragoon and stuff like that and everything else. I have not really been enjoying my Wild Arms adventure. I've played 3 games, like 2.5 games. I beat 1, dabbled in part of Alter Code F, and then I beat Wild Arms 2. Now I'm starting to worry. I told Blake that Armed Fantasia is not going to be good because I haven't enjoyed. Unfortunately, have not been enjoying what I've been playing of the franchise as an adult. So it makes me a tad nervous. Because you expect to go in and be like, man, this is great, like it was when I was a kid. No, nostalgia is bad, people. It's bad. It makes you think things are good when they're bad. So, we're going to talk about this again. There's stuff to like about both. There's stuff to like about all of them, I will say, and we'll get into that as we kind of get through both of these games. We're not going to spend as much time on Wild Arms 1. We'll give it a little bit more time, maybe more. I think Blake said when we talked about it on the episode 1, I talked about it for all of 15 minutes. It's now been, I haven't played it since then, so now it's been even longer since I've played Wild Arms 1. It's been re-released with Wild Arms 2 on the PlayStation Network. That's what I played Wild Arms 2 and I got the Platinum, even though I disliked majority of my time with that game. But I have not, I did not go back and replay Wild Arms 1 for trophies yet. I kind of plan on doing that for that and Dragoon at some point. I'm just like, I keep telling myself I should so I can get trophies, because I'm a trophy addict for whatever reason, even though not as much as I used to be. Why would I go back and play Wild Arms 1 and Legend of Dragoon if I didn't enjoy them initially? Maybe I'm sick. But I haven't done it yet, so maybe I'm not that sick. So,
you might.
You want to dabble in because you played Wild Arms like not even a year ago?
I don't think it was.
But you didn't play so it's still before it got released, because otherwise you would have played it on PS5.
Yeah.
So you played we have a digital version, right? Is it a digital version we played on our PlayStation TV? If you don't know what a PlayStation TV is, look it up. It's a really, really cool little box that Sony put out of nowhere some years back that plays. I think it's technically called a Vita TV, PlayStation Vita TV. It's like having a little Vita box that can play on your TV, but it can also access the PlayStation 1 stuff.
PlayStation 1, PSP, and Vita.
And Vita can all be played on that thing. Digitally, though. It's a digital. And the digital store is still open, of all things, for Sony to be killing things.
It's weird. The stuff on it, talking about the Vita, you can't put money on the Vita. You have to go. It's weird how because I think technically the service is closed.
No, you can still access it. You just can't. They closed putting credit cards on there.
Yeah, but you can still just go to your PSN account and add funds back. Add $25.
That's what Blake does. He'll log it because it's his account, so he'll log into his PS5, add some money, and we'll go buy. Because we're gonna buy Wild Arms XF is on there. And we're gonna buy XF, and there was something else we were gonna buy.
We have a couple of things on there. We have like War of the Lions. We have Persona Golden, 4 Golden, and there's one or two other things I'm sure we'll touch on.
That's what we played. No, we played Dragoon on disc
for Game Shark.
for Game Shark. Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna go into Wild Arms 1 a little bit. I think I said back in the day, maybe I will play it without. What I did.
You cheated yourself into oblivion.
Yeah, there's an item duping glitch in Wild Arms 1, and I made my characters all too strong and sucked the fun right out of that game, and I regret it still to this day. And I've thought about, which didn't stop me from switching and using Game Shark on Alter Code F. Eventually.
Which you immediately quit because you're like, this is too easy.
Yeah, it got really boring really fast. So cheating in old RPGs and getting super strong, which I don't know why I do it, because I didn't do it for Legend of Legaia. You
didn't do it for Legaia, and you didn't do it for. We semi did it. Well, back when we did Dark Cloud.
Well, Dark Cloud had an item duping thing too. It just gave you you weren't invincible. It just gave you really strong weapons.
Stupid powerful weapons. Yeah.
When Dark Cloud, yeah. So anyway, I might do a straight, more of a straight playthrough of Wild Arms 1 at some point, because Wild Arms 1 seems to be the highlight of the whole franchise. It seems to be more popular, the one it's talked about more than anything. Nobody talks about anything after 2, but 1 seems to be like the one that's really beloved, I guess. I'm still planning on playing through. I've already started my things. I've played 2. I'm still going to play 3, 4, and 5. We're going to keep talking about them on the podcast. Them, don't we? We own them all. We got 3 is digital on you can play on PS5. You can play 3 with trophies, which I plan on doing. Then we have disc copies of 4 and 5.
And we'll buy XF on the.
And we'll buy the digital copy of XF, yeah. So, you want to talk about Wild Arms 1? I'm sure you have really faint memories, but.
So, I have our times here. I took pictures of them back when we were playing. So, your initial playthrough, you were a little more, I don't know, I guess because you had stronger stats.
A little more expedited than you. Mm-hmm.
Your total playtime for Wild Arms 1 was 18 hours and 1 minute.
That's insane.
And your levels were, Rudy was 30, Jack and Cecilia were 28. Because you have to grind. You just plowed through.
That time seems low and those levels seem low.
Because you plowed through the game.
Yeah.
Now, I also used the cheat. But I didn't cheat myself into oblivion. I gave everyone extra 5 or 10 in their stats. Mm-hmm. And then I would play, and whenever the game got slightly difficult, I would, grind a little bit, or I would, if I had any apples, I would, use them a little bit.
Stat boosting apples.
Yeah. So yours was 18 hours and 1 minute. Mine was basically 20 hours, 2 extra hours. But my levels were also vastly different. My Rudy was on 35, and my Jack's 31, and my Cecilia was 30 because my characters actually died in combat.
Weird.
But I said I still use a cheat, but I didn't cheat myself into oblivion. I didn't.
Yeah, it made for me. It, like I said, I won't do it again because it sucked the fun out. Like because you actually get. We'll talk about Wild Arms Ultra Code F. You actually get weapons and armor and stuff like that in Wild Arms 1, and it defeats the purpose entirely when you've done all your stats up.
Yeah, and it was really cool was seeing because Ultra Code F it's a frame for frame remake. It's just crazy how it happened. It talks about that it actually had several postpones, like because it was originally Ultra Code F was originally put out in November of 2003.
Are you pivoting right into Ultra Code F?
Well, no, I'm just doing a little bit of the data because Ultra Code was put out November of 2003, but it didn't hit America till November 2005. So they had a bunch of postpones. Everything I could find didn't really give me a reason why. It just says they postponed it several times, but it didn't never give a reason. But some of the cool thing, things stayed. Every single one of the characters. You have Rudy Rough Knight, then you have Jack Van Burais, and then Cecilia Adelheid. They are your main three characters, and those are the only in Wild Arms 1. Those are the only three you get, and they each go through. You have, like I said, Rudy is the main character. He is your arms wielder, the character, but there's some differences in Wild Arms 1. He has a knife and his arm and a gun and
a sword. I guess it's more of a sword in it.
I think it's like a Bowie knife. It's a knife. It's one of those. But he has two weapons and he combats accordingly. Jack has a big sword, usually I think it's like an old timey knight sword. It's like a sheath, who thwacks people, kills people. And then Cecilia is your glyph mage, your crest mage. And I don't remember. I think you still have to buy the spells and stuff in Wild Arms 1.
Yeah, because you could do crest graphs and you just apply them. You put spells onto them, which that carries over to Wild Arms 2.
Yeah, and in Ultra Code F. And so that's, those are your people. And each person has a set of tools which allow you to traverse the dungeons and stuff accordingly. One crazy thing that I read is that the dungeons from... Hold on, let me find it again. I took a bunch of screenshots instead of taking notes. Okay, right here. Okay, so all the dungeons between Wild Arms 1 and Ultra Code F are completely different and designed entirely different to make the experience
fresh, I guess.
Fresh for people who love it. So it says that all the dungeons have been completely redone, layouts and puzzles in Ultra Code F from 1.
Yeah, because it was Ultra Code F's more of a thriller. I mean, I guess 1's still 3D, but there's more 3D movement and stuff like that in Ultra Code F. The tools don't work exactly. The majority of the same. You can do a little bit of different things with the tools, I imagine.
Yeah, so each character has... Now, I can't remember... It's been a minute since I played. Like I said, I played 1. But according to Ultra Code F, each person has 4 tools. And I think they only had 3 in 1.
I don't remember.
So and what the tools are is they just give you access to either create shortcuts or find treasure.
That's for solving puzzles.
Or in general for solving puzzles. So Rudy has his 4. He has a bomb, a radar, a thing called Mighty Gloves, and a grenade. Bomb is, as you can tell, you put it up against the wall or a pillar or a tree, you knock it over and it creates a bridge or triggers a switch.
The worst things I remember is bomb puzzles where you have to use multiple bombs to light multiple switches
at the same time.
Very, very irritating.
I don't think there were like that in Ultra Code F though. Grenades I had to toss. There were a few of them that were annoying, but there were a time delay, and sometimes you had in order to solve the puzzle, you had to know where you were throwing it, blind throw it, and start sprinting down the hallway for it to trigger these staircases they were on like a timer. But of course, once you solve the puzzle, the timer goes away, whatever. But you have to solve the puzzle and walk across the staircase, and then it stops. But you had radar, which helped you. Had like overworld things would help you find hidden abilities, or not hidden abilities, but hidden items like in towns.
It highlights your items on your screen, but if you're using a guide or any kind of way, the radar becomes entirely useless if you're using a guide telling you where the.
And the only other thing is occasionally in dungeons, if you're I don't know where to go, the thing's making a noise. You're supposed to click the radar, and it highlights a hidden door, and then once you walk through the door, it becomes visible, and then radar is useless because you've solved the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Then you had Mighty Gloves, which were irksome. They made these annoying like box puzzles, and depending on, it's so dumb. I hated it. A lot of those box puzzles. A
lot of puzzles in Wild Arms in general. You forget about that.
I forget about that when I'm playing. Now I don't mind chucking a bomb or blowing up something or using the radar, but the Mighty Gloves, especially
it's just box puzzles.
Well, because it's so dumb because sometimes it didn't really give you a reason. It's just like, oh, the material's heavier this time. So even with these super strength gloves, Rudy can't pick them up and move them. He can pick them up and move them one space. So he can pick them up over his head, and then he can just do in a cardinal direction and place it down. And he has to go around it, pick it up, and leapfrog the box.
Just an added layer to make a puzzle slightly more complicated.
Yeah. And then because of that, sometimes, the other thing is sometimes the boxes are even too heavy for him to pick up. So you have to punch them and roll them. But the key is on the key, how you have to match up the symbol, is only on one side, or it's like two sides, I guess, of the box. So you have to punch, and roll the box over to the switch. But you have to make sure that when you get to the switch and you're going to punch it onto the switch, that the open face of it matches the symbol. So when you pump it, it lands and touches the switch. Because if you do the whole puzzle, but you have your box mislined, then you got to go back and try to figure out how to...
Usually just walk out of the room, come back in, resets the puzzle.
They can, yeah. And then the grenade, like you said, like the blind throwing them, tossing them. Yeah. The most annoying ones for me were the box puzzles, because it was just like those stupid sliding puzzles you get in a lot of video games. I was like, I hate these.
Yeah, you forget. You remember the battles and the bosses and stuff like that.
And the good music
and the music, and when you're playing, you're like, oh yeah, this is like 50% a puzzle game.
Yeah,
that puzzles is half the experience of this game. Literally, battles and stuff like that are the other half. Wild Arms is puzzles and battles, and you're just like, I forgot that. Mm-hmm. You kind of, and that doesn't change for Ultracode F or Wild Arms 2.
No, I'm trying to think. Was there any puzzles that I hated? Every single puzzle I encountered, I was like, ugh, another one. Because then as you get further into the game, then they're like, oh, now every character has like the final dungeon, Ka Dragnal, I think it is. It's like this demon tower, and it's like, a bunch of floors, and every single floor, first it starts out like, oh, this floor is just going to be the grenade. This floor is going to be the grenade and the radar. This floor is going to be the grenade, radar, and the Mighty Gloves. This floor is going to be all four of them. Now switch over to this character and go through 1, 2, 3, 4. And then by the time you get to the end of the dungeon, you're like, all right, you have to switch between every single character and use every single tool. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Do you know all of the rest of the tools?
Yeah. So that was Rudy's, like I said, were the bomb, radar, Mighty Glove, and grenade.
That pretty much carries over to Wild Arms Ultracode F.
Jack's are handpan, his intelligent wind mouse, a hook wire, aka a hook shot, jump boots, and a la guitarra, a guitar.
I still got the guitar. I don't know that's in. You see, I think the fourth ones aren't in.
I think the fourth ones are specifically for Ultracode.
The fourth one just triggers the hidden bosses.
Yeah, some of them it get triggered like you had to and it resonated with like a crystal and it made it shine a color. But the majority of the guitars, according to the guide that I used, were strictly to activate hidden bosses. Go back to old areas and strum at the crystal to fight the hidden boss. And I was just like,
so I remember handpan is just he's how you hit the button and you become handpan for a second. And what he does is go and grabs. He can hit switches and get chests that are out of your reach, basically.
And you can kind of like Wanted. You can curve the bullet. You can curve handpan as he shoots out.
You have full. Also, you don't have control of him, okay? Because I forget in Wild Arms 2, there's another mouse thing, and you just kind of control where it goes.
Only one time did I have absolute full control over handpan, and that was like when I was in like a dungeon situation. But the rest of the time, you just shoot him out. Basically, it's just like the hook shot. It shoots out and comes right back.
Yeah. So the hook shot pulls you to things. The hook shot is the same thing, except you hit poles and pull yourself across gaps.
Yeah. But handpan, you could slightly curve him left or right, and sometimes there's a gap, and he can only jump across single spaces. Mm-hmm. So you'd sometimes have to set up or use bombs to blow up things to have them fall to create like a ladder, essentially, because he can only jump one space.
Yeah.
And so you had to do stuff, or trigger the radar. And
the jump boots?
The jump boots were literally
You used to like jump and hit switches, like you jump up and like the switch, like you can't hit a switch because you're not heavy enough. I guess you jump up
and fall down,
and then fall down to the switch. It was kind of a dumb.
It was
one.
kind of a dumb mechanic. Sometimes the other one was you would hit it and it would throw you and you would jump like leapfrog.
Those come back, I think, in Wild Arms too.
Yeah, I hated them.
Hookshot's okay.
Hookshot's fine. You know, sneak across. You know, again, hookshot works. That's in a lot of games. You use it to in combination with other people's things to create the stuff. Handpan was whatever. His stuff was never too complicated. The jump boots were just a nuisance most of the time. It's like you have to jump down, but then in other dungeons before you get the jump boots, a switch would be right next to a ledge, and you would just walk off the ledge, boom, and trigger it. You need the jump boots because you're already on like an elevation. I don't know. They made it. They had to create this, the problem, and it was just, I don't know. I didn't care for them. And even then, you didn't really use them all that often because they had to be situational.
Very specific for the jump boots.
And the other thing that bothers me about all this stuff is you're going through sometimes these like ancient dungeons and stuff like that, and you're like, I get you're supposed to suspend your disbelief and stuff like that in just a video game, and you shouldn't bring.
Check out other podcasts, movie podcasts, Suspension of Disbelief.
Yes, very much so. But while you're playing these and you're just like, okay, the hookshot makes sense because you're just like, okay, cool, I'm using it to break the dungeon. I'm going around not using normal paths. But the jump boots, you're like, who put in these switches for me to jump on in this dungeon?
Thinking too hard about it. Yeah. There's not, you don't, especially in old games like that, you're not supposed to think about who built these things. We see them in games all the time, like we play like Resident Evil, when we play Resident Evil 2, whatever, like, who designed this police station?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're almost like it's a video game. It's for video games or video games. You're not supposed to think too hard about it.
But like handpan makes sense, hookshot makes sense, guitar kind of makes sense.
It really doesn't.
Yeah, but the bombs make sense, grenades make sense because you're breaking the normal layout of the dungeon that has decayed over time. But you're like, I'm gonna jump on these switches designed for me to jump on them with something heavy. I'm just like, ugh, Lord. Regardless, so that's Jack. Most of his stuff is literally the guitar. It says used inside a dungeon to force random battles. That's the only use it has. And the other two things are triggering optional boss fights and triggering event battles. So the guitar is essentially useless.
Yeah, it's useless.
And for our last person, Cecilia, all of her, because she's magic based, all of her things tend to revolve around her like wands and staves. So you have the Tinder Staff, which is like a flamethrower, allows you to light torches and melt ice. Again, kind of makes sense for the.
I will say, thinking back, that the Tinder that flamethrower is better than and I keep bringing up Wild Arms 2. Wild Arms 2, she just shoots a fireball, and there's torch lighting puzzles in both games. Lining up in Wild Arms 2 to light torches in a timed sequence is so much harder than her little. I like the flamethrower. I do like the Tinder Staff more than the fireball.
You just hold the button and you spin around in a circle and you catch everything. Yeah. So you had that, and then the other thing she gets is a thing called Magic Staff, which allows you to bonk animals on the head and talk to them.
Yeah, worthless. There's one part in the story where you talk to a dog that's like not a dog.
Yeah, that's actually probably one of my like favorite parts. Actually, I'll talk about that later. But you hit gorillas on the head, and you can
in the one random gorilla village.
Yeah. And then there's dogs and horses, and sometimes they're the ones that give you the clue to where to go next. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, my master used to go to this dungeon, and it's,
But it's worthless. Like it's weird how why is it in there? How worthless it actually is.
You rarely use it.
It's so rare.
You rarely use the Magic Staff. The other thing you get is called the Change Staff, and then there are these red gems and white gems. And the red gems.
I don't know if the white ones existed. Did the white ones exist in Wild Arms 1?
I don't remember. I think they did.
Are they just in Ultra Code F?
I think they're just in Ultra Code. Well, because the white gems, because you have this meter, this recovery meter that only exists in Ultra Code F. That when you pick up these crystals, it fills up the bar, and then after combat,
vitality bar.
Yeah, your vitality bar, and after combat in Ultra Code F, it decreases the vitality bar, and all your character HP and MP fully heal. So you pick those up.
That's not in Wild Arms 1.
And you pick those up throughout the dungeon, and it fills up that bar again. But she can change them into solid platforms and allow yourself to come across.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa, and that's sometimes used for handpan or used to create a bridge over to a bomb.
That's almost neat. And you said that actually changes what your travel through a dungeon.
I misremembered. So it changed the orange ones into solid platforms. When you hit a white one, it made you swap places with where the white gem was.
That's right.
So that I misremembered. So I do apologize. But yeah, so that made some things hyper complicated because once you did that, you took place of the gem and it disappeared because you have to. Like, in order to hit it, it shoots in a straight line. That's the shooting one. It shoots in a completely straight line. And if you hit an orange tile that you've already changed into a tile, it will revert back to the gem. So you have to, like, solve a puzzle and fire in a straight line and not accidentally turn something you needed into back into an empty space as opposed to a tile. Then her final thing is called the Wind Staff, which creates a mini tornado which lifted up or lowered down these platforms. You'd have to use them for, again, very specific spots that were usually in like side dungeons.
I don't even hardly remember that one.
I think you get it really.
You do the fire stuff. You do mostly fire, and then you do a lot of those changing crystals to platforms kind of thing. You do a lot of that. I feel like
it lifts bridges and certain animals. Like one dungeon had to like capture an animal or something, and you had to set the tornado to like lift it up because it was one of the times where we were separated in the dungeon and I had to like lift up this platform so that this chicken could be caught by either Rudy or Jack.
I don't remember.
It was by humbug. My general playthrough through one, I liked it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's
I feel like it probably holds up more than we think it.
It does hold up. It holds up very, and it was 20. Like I said, 20 hours isn't bad. Now, as 20 hours with me cheating and using a guide and stuff.
Yeah, we'll call it guide cheating.
But, I mean, it was fine. I had fun. Whenever I got up my weapons and my upgrades, I got to enjoy the getting new equipment. And
I think we brought up originally for the plot line. This is a plot of constant failure, which is interesting.
Yeah.
You're chasing the bad guys and throughout this whole game. And that's in Alter Code F as well. You're chasing the bad guys and you're always too late.
Yeah, that is a really kind of cool thing. You're always constantly one step behind. You're always showing up. Sometimes in other games, you like show up like in the nick of time. You're like, hey, we're going to beat you, bad guy. And you beat the bad guy and you save the day. Most of the time you show up and they've already finished what they were doing. They've set their bomb. They've broken the thing. They've,
Yeah, the first part they're breaking something to release Mother, right?
Breaking these seals.
So they seals. Succeed, and you don't stop any of them from happening, and then
no. So
it's pretty cool.
One of the crazier things that happens is the game ends. You work your way all the way up to the Quarter Knights dungeon.
Quarter Knights are the bad guys.
They're the main bad guys. That and the names don't change, but that is Siegfried, Alhazard, Harkin, and Berserk. Now, I don't think that any of them really had names. They were just called Muscle Quarter Knight, Sword Quarter, in Wild Arms.
They didn't have their actual names in regular Wild Arms? They had to have had their names.
I think they did.
Maybe.
I know Siegfried did, but the other ones were like my knight. He just called them my knights, and whenever they encountered you, you're like, oh no, it's one of the Quarter Knights, and they didn't really. Oh no, because there were some errors. Because Berserk was called like Belkin or Belzelk. And the Alter Code F had a retranslation of the first one that was more accurate to the original source material.
Oh, okay.
So the character named Berserk in like the Wild Arms 1 is called Belselk because the people, I guess, early translations were a little more rough.
Yeah.
And they thought maybe there was a misspelling of an American word, and they're like, I guess this is the right way.
Who knows?
And so you have all of them, but where it's crazy how much extra story was added. But where Wild Arms 1 ends is they've awoken Mother. The Quarter Knights find out Mother's true goal. They freak out. The heroes show up. They kill Mother, and the Quarter Knights just go, hey, it was bad. We understand because her whole thing was she's been lying to them, saying spoiler alert for people who haven't played Wild Arms or Wild Arms Alter Code F. But Mother has essentially been lying to them because she says that something destroyed their home planet. And she's like, oh, it was actually me. I destroyed our home planet because that's what I do. I'm a conqueror. I go from world to world conquering it.
It's not conquering. She's just a destroyer.
Yeah, well, she's like, I take what I want. I use up all the resources, and then I leave it behind. And when I leave it behind, I use it usually.
Yeah, the Quarter Knights thought they were going to rule.
Yeah, they thought they were going to take over the planet and rule. Now, the case, so when you kill Mother at the end of Wild Arms 1, credits, Quarter Knights like, we get it.
Does Wild Arms 1 really just end there?
Yeah, Wild Arm ends right after Mother awakens. You fight her. Yeah, it's like a 3-stage boss fight with Mother.
Yeah.
You kill her, and then you're just kind of like you land. You land. Actually you don't take off. You space because in Ultra Code F it goes further. There's like an extra like my Ultra Code F pro game was like 60 hours.
Yeah. You didn't cheat at all.
No, because it was all Game Shark. I just grinded.
Yeah, you did, but you didn't Game Shark. No, I didn't bother.
I didn't. I just grinded.
Rounded it, did.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, Wild Arms 1 ends at that. And they're like, Cecilia comes back. She rules her kingdom. Jack continues his treasure hunting, and Rudy having his life changed.
Oh yeah, because there's the big reveal that he's a cyborg.
There's a massive reveal for Rudy that he's not human at all, not even a little bit. He's pretty cool. He's a T-800, a more advanced version of a T-800. But that is a crazy reveal, and they had to change the story beats a little bit. Like that's revealed earlier in Wild Arms 1 than it is in Wild Arms 2. Wild Arms Ultra Code F, as well as there's a couple of things that play out the exact same way. There's a spot like one of the towers you go to. I thought it was really cool. I made note of it when I played Wild Arms 1, and I re-noted it when I played Ultra Code F. It's because it's an H.P. Lovecraft reference. You fight a thing called a Night Gaunt, and you fight at the top of this tower. One of the Al-Hazid summons it. You have to fight it, and you get trapped inside this barrier, and you're introduced to another character named Calamity Jane. She's another arms wielder, and she helps break you out. And she's like she's a treasure hunter. Now you have like two. She appears a little bit throughout Wild Arms 1. She's like she has a crush on Rudy because he saves her or something. But they go further because in Ultra Code F you get access to you have your main 3, but you get 6 other playable characters.
3.
No, there's 6.
6 extra playable characters.
Only 3 of them join you permanently, but there are 6 other characters that you can have. One being, let me pull it up to make sure I say their names right.
These are all characters that appear in the original.
They all appear. They didn't add. Well, yeah, they didn't add any of them. I don't believe they did.
Yeah, but nobody's playable in original game.
Mm-mm. You have Emma. She is in the first town that everyone comes together. Adelheid, which is Cecilia's hometown. She's the princess of. She's a scientist, and she like discovers the golem technology that these weapons and stuff. Essentially, kind of like Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII. You have these.
It's not too far. The golems ain't too far from.
You have these guardian weapons designed to protect the guardian seals, and there's one all over one's all over the planet. And she finds one, and it eventually becomes a tool for you to use.
Yeah, to cross the water.
Now I did check to double check myself. So Wild Arms 1 came out in 1996. Final Fantasy VII didn't actually come out until 1997. So maybe they got some inspiration from Wild Arms. I don't know. Those timelines are so close together. But it also says that Final Fantasy VII development started in 94, but it didn't come out because they were going to come out on the NES, but then they changed it to 64 and PlayStation. Yeah. And so maybe they had this
N64 Final Fantasy VII.
Anyway. Yeah, so it may I don't know what.
Yeah, well, it's like that thing. It's just like people have similar. I mean, Guardians of a Planet is not a far fetched idea.
No,
I don't think either one of them stole from the other one. I don't feel like or anything. I think people have similar.
Well, my thing is the overall story. You have a being from another planet named Mother, a female alien from another planet who destroys other planets and comes to your planet and is revived by, in this case, a group of individuals. One in particular who she has been lying to, and he's feeding her lies to another group of subordinates. You have weapons, golems around the world designed to protect these seals that are giant robotic weapons that are a function for the planet. Mm-hmm. And then in Final Fantasy VII, you have Genova, who is mother to an individual who's going around trying to break the planet. And when he starts breaking the planet, these things designed to protect the Earth called weapons awaken to try and stop. It's so crazy how similar these two stories are.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's a lot more character development in 7, but that overall bad guy plot is pretty
insane. How incredibly close they were. Mm-hmm. And because we haven't really spoken about it, but it's a sci-fi western. Mm-hmm. You know, because of what they're doing, breaking these guardian seals, it's like making the world more desolate, and there's more deserts and stuff. And so that's where you get the awesome soundtrack, the whistling and the acoustic guitar, and that probably the most famous sci-fi western that's of the exact same style is called Trigun.
Yeah. There's a Trigun. There's literally a picture of Vash the Stampede on the wall in Wild Arms 2.
Because they had to have been inspired by, because like I said, Media Arms came out in '93.
Well, I mean, spoilers for
Trigun.
Trigun. Vash is a bit of a cyborg.
Yeah, he's a being who lives outside of time. But so Trigun's original run for the manga was March 25th March 25th, 95 to December 26th of 96.
I mean, yeah.
And this came out in 96, so they had to have been heavily inspired.
I'm telling you, there's a picture of Vash on the wall in Wild Arms 2.
Wild Arms 2, yeah. It's literally dude, you sent me the picture as soon as you saw it.
I took a screenshot of it, yeah.
They acknowledged the fact that we copied you, homage, thanks for being inspiration. So like it's really cool. Like I genuinely love the world and I like everything about it. Like the thing that also blows my mind a little bit is part of the prologue for Rudy is he saves this village by revealing that he uses an arm. He's an arm wielder, and they're like, oh my god, arms are the devil's technology. They cause wars. They are the reason that the world's in the state it does because it uses earth energy, uses the Mako energy to break the world, but it doesn't. It's not really. It's something else. But it's the devil.
He gets shunned. Yeah.
He gets shunned by the village. If that's the case, why are there arms mechanics in every major city you go to?
Yeah, not in that village though.
Not in that village, but every major city you go to, there's an arms mechanic, an arms maester, actually. But it's the devil, and you can't. No one's allowed to use this forbidden technology because it creates wars and ends life.
Well, you really only see Rudy and
Jane are the only ones in the world that I've ever seen use them.
Yeah.
But like I said, I went on that whole crazy tangent, but because I didn't mean to. But I was talking about Emma, who you can recruit. You can recruit her very early in the game.
Is she a not permanent one, or
she's a permanent one. You can recruit her very early in the game to be temporarily on your party. She is basically just a blue mage. She's a tech girl. She can download enemy data and then can use that move. And then once you've downloaded an enemy,
there's never been a useful blue mage. Somebody didn't find me a useful blue mage in an RPG. The poor class is just never useful.
I mean, they can.
People stand by Quistis a little bit in Final Fantasy VIII, but like
Quistis and Kimari,
nobody stands by Kimari. There's literally, because his skills are locked behind his overdrive, nobody stands behind Kimari.
I guess that's true.
His blue mage crap is locked behind his overdrive.
Yeah,
I played 10 recently.
I would love to make a game that uses has
blue mages
the most badass blue mage of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's a blue mage. She downloads enemy data. The only because I did use a guide for Alter Code F. Let me pull that up real quick. Just shout out to the guide I used was on GameFAQs, and it was a person named Split_Infinity, and they put their guide out in 2011, and I used their guide. It was pretty on the nose. He's like, all right, go here, go here. Of course, I don't know why they had spoilers in the guide, but we've talked about that before. It's more work to put spoilers in a guide than it is to go, hey, go here, listen to the cutscene, as opposed to go here, listen to the cutscene, and then give me verbatim what the cutscene says. It's so annoying, and I don't know why guide makers do that.
I have no idea. It's insane. Anyway, Emma.
Yeah.
Blue Mage.
Blue Mage, she downloads data. The guide I used only ever told me one time to download an ability for her. Like it said, bring Emma, get this thing from this enemy, and it's called Great Boost. Mm-hmm. And what it does is for one turn, the following turn is your everything's times 2'd.
Yeah. I will say
your defense, attack, speed, and all that.
I had a thing. I keep bringing up One Arms 2. I'll bring it up again when we talk about it. There was a character that you get in there that has blue mage abilities that I forgot about, and hers is one that actually the guy tells me to use multiple times, called Status Lock, which you cast at the beginning of a battle, and your party's immune to status effects for the entire battle. And we use that multiple times because there's lots of the hidden bosses that toss lots of garbage at you, and he made a point of going to a certain place and get to a certain enemy and magicking him and getting status lock as an ability, and then we used it 20 times. It's actually
kind of sexy.
So maybe she, for that one ability, makes her a somewhat useful blue mage, but we'll see. We'll talk more about her when we get to
for Emma, it says that she can be powerful. It says that
That's what they always say about blue
It
mages.
says that she can be powerful.
Oh, well, no, that's Selphie. I think it's like people say that because in Final Fantasy VIII, but that's Selphie who has the end thing, not
the gambling. Hers is a gambling.
Hers is the game, so that's not the end. So I don't know if Quistis gets anything powerful. Anyway,
but Emma,
Blue Mage podcast,
because one of the differences between 1 and Alter Code F is Alter Code F took away people's equipment. You don't hunt down weapons. You don't hunt down armor.
Big mistake.
Which is, I think, a big no-no for any RPG. But the whole point of it was they wanted to focus on single weapons and then work more on abilities and upgrading abilities and stuff like that. So Rudy no longer uses a knife sword. He uses his gun, his arm. But then when it runs out, he will go and punch and kick somebody.
Mm-hmm. You can reload it, though.
Yeah, but I think you defend to reload, and then later on you do get an ability that will let you auto-reload, or has a chance to auto-reload. And so altar parts are these things that you can pick up in dungeons as hidden items, and sometimes a reward for a side quest. And altar parts are how you upgrade Rudy's arm.
Yeah, you veered off from the side characters.
I know. Shoot. Well, because I need to explain this to explain Emma. So these altar parts are used to upgrade Rudy's arm and his cartridges, which are different abilities he has depending on what cartridge he loads into the arm. Mm-hmm. And you use altar parts to upgrade those. So there's a finite amount of altar parts in the game. Now you can get a massive amount of them through, like there's like a dungeon, not a dungeon, there's an arena you can go through multiple times and stuff. You can get a bunch of them. But it says that you can sacrifice altar parts to Emma to upgrade permanently her attack by 1 point. But why would you do that to her when you have Rudy, who definitely he needs the part?
Such a strange thing.
It's such a strange thing.
As if you're like doing a playthrough and you just really want to use Emma.
Yeah. But you can't even recruit her permanently until over halfway through the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That first part's just temporary. That first one dungeon where you find the golem.
Yeah, and so the next permanent member you get is Calamity Jane. She is another arm wielder, and
I thought she was also temporary.
No, she becomes permanent. Her butler is temporary. But becomes Jane becomes permanent. She's your thief.
Yeah, which is important, I guess.
It's super important for certain spots of the game. She's your thief. But then she has another move called Follow Me, which you activate Follow Me, and you pick a person, and it automatically makes that person go right behind you in combat.
Yeah. Do they have tools?
No.
So they don't have tools.
Emma, Jane, and the other person don't have tools.
Okay.
But she allows you. Rudy is the slowest character in the game. Whatever his design, which kind of makes sense from like an outside story point, considering what he is.
Yeah, he's a big slow cyborg.
Yeah, and so she can so some of my strategies were like, hey, we're going to do this boss fight, and these were like game breaking strategies, not to like super win a boss, but they were like because how experience is given in the game is depending on what you do, whether you defend, you get a critical hit, or you block something, you get a slight boost to your experience, like 0.1%, plus 0.1%, plus 1.2%. But she allows you to do this crazy thing with Rudy and use his ability to kill all these small enemies. Because I had to do it a couple of times. It's like 3 times I did it in the game, where I fought this boss that he was immune to damage while he had minions on the field, but I would kill the minions on purpose and leave one alive to let him but he would focus on reviving the enemies and not hitting you if you kill all but one. And so I would use her in conjunction with a couple of different things to kill until I literally ran out of MP and stuff like that, and just kill. And it got to the point, didn't work out perfectly for every character, but mostly Jack and Rudy. That's why Cecilia got a little more behind, because she didn't have like an all-hitting thing except for in certain moments when I had to build up her limit break bar essentially. But I would get to for Jack and Rudy, we get times 10 experience after a boss fight and stuff like that. So there were some boss fights that I leveled up 10, 12 times. So our levels got, kind of distance, but I was able to use level up apples and stuff like that to help keep her slightly closer. And so that's Jane. The other thing is crazy because it says that she only can join you permanently after you've opened up the final dungeon.
That's dumb.
She does join you a few times throughout the game. Her and her butler, which is a gentleman named Magdalene Hartz, and he joins you temporarily. But there's a spot in the game where you guys get separated, and it's you get Rudy, her, and her butler, and you can go essentially take on this super hidden boss.
It's only right there.
Well, technically Rudy's supposed to be by himself, so it's a hard boss. But if you have them and you go do this hidden boss and then go do the story, then you have 3 people instead of 1 on this spot.
Awesome little hack for that. For that part. That's
and
cool.
during that same point is also the spot where you can steal these memory chips, I think they're called, from these little rat monkeys that are only around the very first town.
Oh yeah, those sell for like $200,000.
They sell for like the max. They sell for $999,000 or 900. What is it?
You could just max out your money.
Yeah, you can max out your money right there, which is pretty crazy, but only right there, and you can't do it again until the final.
It's like a rat monkey. It's like a random enemy you would never think to steal from.
Yeah, it's literally called a rat monkey.
But when you look up, how do I get money in Wild Arms? It's not an unknown thing.
Yeah, and so that's a pretty cool little thing you can do. Magdalene, he's a slower, stronger version of Jack. He uses fast draw techniques and stuff like that, so he's pretty powerful. And the other final, Magdalene is not a permanent member. He's a temporary moment. The other final member you can get is a super secret character who you literally can't get until
I don't think I even know about this one.
The very, very end of the game. He is a quarter knight in training, and you get this dude named Zed. He's the blue ninja,
the green hair guy.
Yeah, you get him to join you. Because he's realized the error of his ways.
He's the guy you fight multiple times throughout the. Apparently, he's pretty dangerous fights. So if you're
he's some dangerous fights, yeah. But he's also like his whole thing is he wants to be the strongest. He's like bah bah bah. He's just like the arrogant little like up and coming. Like I'm super strong. He's like in training, so he's not a real quarter knight. But as you beat him, you get to I can't even think of the word, but
Is he like late game too?
He's super late game. You have to go through all of his side stuff, and then he becomes available after you've beaten him for the last time.
Your point of your playthrough was to do everything right. I know you said parts of that game started dragging, but your whole point of your Alter Code F playthrough was to do it all.
I did majority of it.
You fought all the bosses and everything?
No, I close to the end of the game. I was like, I'm not going to do all this. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know you got really tired of playing it because he said that kind of like it's over twice as long as the original game. Well over twice as long as the original game. But you got Zed though, just to get him, or not?
Actually, I don't think I did. I think by the end of the game, I was just like, because once I read on how to get him, I was just like, I'm not playing another 10 hours to get a character I'm not going to use.
Yeah, which is crazy. If this was on the PlayStation Network and had trophies, then maybe
might be a different story. Yeah, or if they literally became available sooner than the final dungeon. Because every single one of them, the first requirement is the final dungeon. The final dungeon that maybe takes an hour. Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do the final dungeon. I'm not going to leave the final dungeon to go over to do the arena, to beat all the arena, then to take that trophy over here to do this, to trigger his boss fight. Because you have to beat him in order for him to.
Because I was doing that stuff again. I bring up Wild Arms 2 because the main character, you get his final tool in the final dungeon. So I had to go into the final dungeon because that game does have trophies. So I went into the final dungeon to get a tool that I had to go back out of the final dungeon to go fight a hidden boss.
Yeah,
I was just like, man, whatever. But I did it because there's trophies.
The only reason I would do that is which they've gotten smart about it in like a lot of more modern RPGs. Is you'll get that, and then like this is the point of no return. And you're like, oh, here's a portal, or here is your captain for your airship, or here is a mount that can take you down to the and it's a fast travel from the entrance of the dungeon to that spot. I
had a teleporter thing, and when I was playing Trails in the Sky 2, I think.
And the final person you get, and again, it's super temporary, but she is on your party for a while. Her name is Meryl, and she's
elf girl.
She's essentially Aerith. She is the last of her kind on a planet, and she is trying to regrow flowers and bring green back to the earth that's dying.
Yeah,
she's literally Aerith.
Yeah.
So, but she's also she
gets killed by a guy falling out of the sky with a sword. I'm just kidding. No, she doesn't.
No, she does get beat up because she's not human. She's one of the original.
She gets bullied.
She's one of the original races of the planet called the Elwa, ELW, and they're basically these elves with these big rabbit donkey ears, but they can live forever. She's like 1,500 years old or something like that, or maybe not 50. She's like 500, but she's a baby in there. But she's literally you recruit her temporarily, and she stays in your party for a long time, but she comes in on like level 1. So you have to train her in order to survive. And she's like throws berries and stuff. She gets some pretty decent abilities. but it says trainer to this level. Like my guy was like, trainer to this level, she gets this ability, and then just try to avoid combat. Because you do get these things called migrant seals in Alter Code F. I don't think they were in 1, but it says migrant seals are in Alter Code F 2 and 3.
I don't like the migrant seal mechanic.
Because what it does is it allows you to avoid combat. And if you get, if you've picked up, my guy pointed it out to me, if you find the hidden migrant seals or you get them for rewards or hidden items, the higher your migrant seals, essentially, whenever in combat or you're trying to avoid combat, it pings your migrant seal bar, and you have to get into fights or leave the dungeon to come back for it to refill. But the higher your level, the less likely it is to take away. So by the time I would get to certain dungeons, I would have a really high level because he'd point out what all the hidden ones were. And then I would go into a dungeon, and I could literally skip every fight in this dungeon if I wanted to, and it would have no drawback because of how high my migrant seal was.
Yeah, but the drawback is you're not fighting fights. That's the understanding mechanic. People love it. Modern people love I love I can turn off combat. I can just turn off battles. And I saw people turning off battles and getting to a point in the game where they couldn't. I saw somebody about Final Fantasy X. I saw somebody because you get a runaway skill in Final Fantasy X, and they got to a part where they were they couldn't win. And they're like, well, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Well, I've been running away from all the battles because I don't want to do that." And I'm sitting there thinking like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, you're running away from all the battles, and then you're confused that you're not strong enough to beat something later. So I don't know. It's like that's like the modern people would love the migrant seal system. It'll probably be in some form of it'll be an ARM Fantasia, I guess. But
probably
a system built into your game to skip your combat. I don't know.
I like it and don't like it at the same time. If a reward for playing your game is to play less of your game, it seems strange. Mm-hmm. But that being said, if it's like an add-on because I played through Final Fantasy IX kind of recently, and it has a thing that turn off combat.
Yeah, the modern ones.
Yeah, the modern PC port. So I did that once or twice. I'm not going when I made it to a place for the first time and I was going through. I fought every fight. I trained. I grinded. But then I followed a guide and was like, hey, once you get this item, you need to leave this dungeon and run all the way back over to this Queena's hut to do this mini game for frogs to make Queena better. Yeah,
and I was like, another terrible blue mage.
Yeah, speaking of. And so I was like, okay, it's going to take me like an hour or two to run back and fight all the fights, or running away from fights because some of the fights were too weak anyway for me to gain levels from. So I was just like, let me just click off combat, sprint all the way there, do what I needed to do, sprint all the way back, turn combat back on, and then finish up my dungeon. And I did that, but I know that you have to grind in RPGs and stuff like that. Anytime in 9, I had to, because you don't get that option a lot to just blatantly turn off combat.
We'll turn off random encounters.
Yeah, turn off random encounters. Yeah. So I did it whenever I had to go back through like an old dungeon, and I was just like, well, these dungeons, I'm getting like 3 experience a fight and 5 money, so I'm just not waste my time. So like that I understand. That I understand.
Yeah, which is what migrant seals can do.
Yeah, but as you level it up, it goes to all the dungeons. Now, I did trigger the migrant seal a couple of times just because I had auto combat in Alter Code F. There's a particular dungeon that an enemy type was this big turtle, and for whatever reason, it was faster than you, and it would do this thing like all counter, and auto battle was just everyone just auto attacking, and so I like KO'd in those fights, and I was like, oh. So I during that particular dungeon, I did skip every fight because I was like, I'm not redoing my auto battle just so I can avoid that, to try to redo that one fight that goes too long and it's not worth the experience. So I literally skipped every fight in that one dungeon. I will say I did that because it was a nuisance.
Yeah, I bet. I didn't know there were so many extra characters in there. I knew about Emma and Calamity Jane, probably.
But yeah, so that back around to the point I was on. That is all of the side characters, and I only got some of them. I got Jane and Emma.
Do that, and it really, when it comes down to it, the 3 main characters are still the most powerful characters.
Yeah, I still use Jack, I still use Cecilia, and I still used Rudy.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Yeah, but one of the things they did do with Alter Code F is, like I told you, the point where Wall Arms 1 ends is about it's like the 2/3 or maybe even halfway point of Alter Code F.
Just crazy.
There's so much more stuff that they tack on. But the Rudy, the discovery of Rudy being not fully human happens right there in like a really awesome moment.
Yeah. it's done really well.
It's
in
done
Ultra Code F.
really, really well in Ultra Code F, and I have it noted here. I'm gonna get back to it.
So I guess you get additional while you're scrolling. So I guess you get additional plot for all the Quarter Knights. Like, so Mother is still defeated, and you still have to go deal with the Quarter Knights, or is Mother not exactly dead?
Mother gets defeated, but then she one of her single cells survive, and she infects Siegfried, and then he doesn't realize
None of that's in the original. Wow.
Because you kill Mother.
She's the last boss. Yeah.
You kill Mother at their place, and then but in this one, like, they launch the spaceship, their ship. They launch it to the air, and they're about to create like a black. They have like a black hole generator. And they're like, well, if we can't win, we're gonna take you with us. And I'm trying to hold on, get my thoughts in order. Once everything, like, once you trigger you beat Mother, like, how could you beat Mother, but she was bad? Because even to the point, you're like she was bad in that particular dungeon. You have this mysterious robed person in blue robes. He's like, take this key. You can stop them that way. And they're like, who are you? He's like, it's not important. And then later on, he was like, they would be like, they would drop an item here. You'd see him appear throughout the dungeon, and then it's revealed that it's Siegfried, helping you try to prevent Mother from taking over the world.
Or destroying
it, rather. But then, like, Mother transforms, takes control of him, and forces like a big fight. And then there's a really cool thing where he's like, well, the possessed Siegfried says, if I can't win, I'm taking everything with me. He activates his black hole generator. Rudy runs up and like shoulder tackles him off this thing into the black hole generator. He gets like, as he's like being sucked down in, he fires up a hook shot, and it wraps around Rudy's arm and pulls him down. And he's like holding on. Everyone's like, he's like telling him to get back. He's like motioning. Speaking of, he's motioning to get back. This is all done in-game graphics, in-game cutscene. They do some OAV stuff, some anime drawings.
Oh, is there?
There's some anime ones throughout. There's like a splash screen and stuff like that. Some anime cutscenes throughout the game that were voiced in Japanese in the Japanese release, but the voices were taken out in the American version due to copyright issues for the voice actors or something like that. But they're just blank in the cutscenes. But during this in-game thing, he's pulling back, and Rudy's waving them to stay back because the black hole's it's breaking the railing, it's sucking everything down. And the only thing Rudy can think to do is he pulls his arm out, his gun, points it at his elbow joint, and blasts his arm off. Just blasts it to nothingness, and then the Siegfried falls in the black hole. And that's, but because then that triggers the whole side quest of healing Rudy, which happens a little earlier in the game in Wild Arms 1, and then that's where you get Meryl and stuff like that, and you have to go to the Elwa dimension, which is a whole added on thing, and you fight. That's where you go to the gorilla village, and you do all this stuff to get this ancient mystical weapon. And then you get a choice. Do you want the Judgment arm or the Destroyer arm? And it gives you a permanent upgrade to Rudy's character model. He gets a different style arm. It has like this massive white attachment to it. But like, that stays the same. I think it's either white or black. The Judgment one gives you better stats on like a more accuracy in this, that, and the other, while the Death one gives you like a chance to like insta-kill enemies and stuff like that. But everything I read says don't get the Death one. The possibility for insta-kills is not worth the drop in stats that you would get if you don't pick the Judgment. So everything picked the Judgment, so I got that one. And then you start on this whole quest where I think the biggest thing for Wild Arms 1 to Ultra Code F and a lot of the story is you do get more one-on-ones with all the Quarter Knights. All of them. Including one in particular, the Lady Harkin, which is the scythe-wielding female knight. And so they decided to alter that particular character. And it turns out that, because you have plenty of story with Rudy, and you have plenty of story with Celia being the princess and being the medium and the connection point for the Guardians. She speaks for the Guardians. And you have Jack, who's just like, I'm a treasure hunter, guys. What's up? And so they put a lot more a backstory on Jack, and they gave him particular personal involvement with Lady Harkin, who's someone from his past who died at like one of the first attacks the Quarter Knights when they landed on the planet like 15-20 years ago. And it turns out that Lady Harkin is someone who's had their memory wiped and was actually the person who trained him. And I get
quick draw stuff,
the quick draw skills and stuff like that. And then she gets she gets a whole messed up thing too because she's the only female. The El Hazard does this messed up thing where she gives birth to this thing called the darkness tier because she's a woman and only women can bring life. And this darkness tier is something that's supposed to use to activate the end of the world. And he doesn't care about her. She's like, he's powerful, and they're like, but he's only there because she's a woman. Is the only reason that she's even there, because it doesn't matter how strong she is. Her whole purpose is he's going to kill her during this birthing sequence to create this darkness tier. And she finds that out and goes, well, that's not, I don't want to go out that way. And you and Jack has to kill her, and it's like a really heartfelt thing. They give a lot more
That's cool.
writing to Jack because he literally has no story relevance really in Wild Arms 1. When you think back on it, you're just like, I'll come along, I guess.
For the ride, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so they do a really good job of fluffing and adding the story. And it is a little bit of a fluff, but they do add a lot of it. And again, the dungeons being reworked and all that stuff, it wasn't necessary. Some of those dungeons are stupid long now. And then there's literally a dungeon I avoided that was a 100 floor dungeon. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing a 100 floor dungeon. Okay, so we do get, and I think the same thing in Wild Arms when you get vehicles. You get
the boat, and you get
the sweet candy, which is Captain Barbados, which has he's a sad man who's like this older gentleman past his prime, and he's just bragging. He's like, this young pretty thing is my bride, and you accidentally get married to him, but not really. But because of that, he gives you access to his boat, the Sweet Candy, which allows you to go around, and you can't go through whirlpools till you get this item. Then you go through whirlpools, and then you get your mech, the Asgard, which can go across shallow water and break giant rocks only after you've unlocked that ability and thing. But while you're in the Asgard, no combat.
Yeah.
No combat when you walk around the Asgard. You do get in combat while on the boat, which is kind of cool because there's a specific battle arena. Whenever you get into a fight, you're on the boat's prow, I guess, and you fight creatures. Deck, prow, whatever. I don't know. I don't know boat terms. Poop deck. And then you get the proto wing, which that gets upgrades to allow you to affect your ascension and descension. You can fly over mountain ranges.
Yeah, I don't remember the proto wing.
I think it's new to Alta Code F. And then and that takes you can go to hidden areas and stuff like that and find extra hidden items. Now, one thing I did find again more annoying is there's an ice level in Alta Code F, and there's a specific special mechanic put into the game. It's a sneak mechanic.
Huh. You
hold circle and your character will creep.
Yeah, you use that for the floor panels that fall, I think, don't you? The only other thing you use it for. There'll be panels in a dungeon where that fall down unless you creep on them.
Yeah, and that's the only time you use that mechanic in the entire game. You don't ever use it again. You don't have to sneak past enemies in a dungeon. You don't. The only time. Then why? If you're using it one time, why bother putting it in the game?
So there's not a sneaking part.
No.
Okay, I thought. Okay, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were going to talk about an actual part where you had to sneak.
No, the part that you played, the ice thing, you had to creep across thin ice, is the only time you use the creep mechanic, the sneak mechanic. The only freaking time. Someone spent months, weeks, days trying to, solve that
code in a sneak
mechanic that you never use again.
So I'm sure they're proud of it.
I was like, why? Now, one of the crazier things that happens is, like I said, with Lady Harkin, because she is gestating with the tier of darkness, she gets a certain power upgrade. In this particular case, we fight the Ocean Guardian, which are the beings that are meant to protect the planet. And so we go to this underwater dungeon. She appears as we make it to the Ocean Guardian, and you're like, you can't win. We beat her in a fight. You actually, it's one of the times you are ahead of schedule. You're like, oh, we kicked your butt. What are you gonna do now? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm so weakened. And the the Ocean Guardian is gonna knock her out of he's gonna hit her with his tentacle and knock her out or whatever. And she's like, oh no, I've lost. What am I gonna do? And he goes to his tentacle reaches towards her, and she just touches his tentacle, and he's like, what's going on? And he slowly starts turning to ash, and then he dies because while she's gestating with the Tear of Darkness, she essentially has death touch from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, so why did she death touch you guys?
Because it was all part of her ploy. She knew she couldn't. It would be faster for her to lose and to have that thing attack her than for her to try to kill us all and then try to fight him, because it was less of a fight for us to hit her.
You think that's what's the plot there?
Well, that was what she described after she did her little master plan thing, like all anime characters do. And then, like, shortly after that, you find out that she's going to give birth to the Tear of Darkness and eventually die because of it. And then you try to convince her, and then she's like, screw you, you're lying. And then you find out she's not lying, and then there's a whole thing. I'm trying to think. I think I've touched on a lot of stuff. Now, I have bounced back and forth consistently and not
in both games
easily traceable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's...
I don't know what point you said you saw my save file. At what point that I had stopped playing? I played quite a few hours.
You played like 25 or 30 hours.
Yeah, I was just kind of bored. I don't know. I just wasn't, or maybe I wasn't feeling it. Some of the stuff you talk about sounds really cool, but I'm just missing out on like there's no equipment.
It is. Yeah, the no equipment thing is kind of pooey. And I think I'm trying to figure out if there was a reason why they did that, but I don't think there was really any reason. And they definitely overdid it with the Guardians, because I think in Wild Arms 1 you get like 4, maybe 8. You get kind of like the base elements: earth, wind, fire, water, and then there's like electricity and light and dark. You get a couple of them, and you encounter them, and then they overdid it in Ultra Code F. They're like, oh yeah, well, part of the story is you're supposed to have all these guardians protecting Earth, and you're like, why is there only 4 guardians protecting Earth? So they overdid it. There's like 18 guardians.
There's a bunch of Wild Arms too.
I think there's a total of 18 guardians, and some of them like the Guardian of Love, the Guardian of Steel, the Guardian of Open Skies, and each one has a really cool summon mechanic, a summoning cutscene. And one in particular, let me find it real quick. Flash it. So, I think it's that one, Shining Star. Let me double check. Okay, yeah. So there's one I use the most called Shining Star, and it was this crazy. Again, it was this Lovecraftian creature, this floating eyeball with tendrils in space. And it would go through this portal. This cutscene would come through this portal, and his eye would glow, and it would shoot this beam down towards Earth, and it would hit Cecilia. But basically, it activated this thing called Dual Star Prism, which let you take a turn twice in a single turn. But you had to set it up right, because if you triggered it wrong, you didn't have enough. I guess that you had to have enough MP, because otherwise, like if you had Jack doing this really powerful fast draw, but if he did. I didn't talk about that at all, because you can level up Jack's fast draws. The more uses you do it, they get stronger, and they require less MP.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have him have like using a mastered one, and he couldn't use it twice, and it would just like no MP, and it was like a waste of time. So you had to like plan accordingly. And you couldn't use Rudy because some of his cartridges had limited ammo, so you had to make sure that when you activated that ability and what you were about to use could be actually done twice in a row. So it took a little bit of thinking, but it was like hurtful.
Yeah.
Because you could even do for her, because you'd hit that, and then you could trigger her to cast a thing called basically like Barrier and Shell from Final Fantasy.
Is it like the next turn, like she cast it, and then the next turn's going to play twice?
Yeah.
Okay.
But she would do these stat increase items like, ooh, let me boost my speed, boost my magic defense or physical defense, and then she would cast a thing called Permanence. So she would increase everyone's physical defense, and instead of it being 3 or 4 turns, it would be for the rest of combat. So I would do Barrier, Permanence. So everyone got full, depending on what the enemy was. I could like boost my stats permanently for the fight. So that was it was a pretty game breaking combo. And the majority of them, like some of them are just hidden items on the map that you can just miss. Which is just kind of strange for the amount of... But they definitely overdid it with the amount of Guardians. But every single one of those cutscenes or those summoning scenes were pretty cool. I did use all of them just to see them. I'm trying to make sure that I've touched on everything. We talked about all the... Do you have any questions? Did I not touch on something that you vaguely remember?
No, I don't really remember anything else. Do you know what point in the story? Do you look at my save at all? Probably not. See what point I stopped playing. I don't remember when I stopped playing.
You were in the Elwood dimension, so I think you got to the part with Rudy. So I think you got to the midway point of the game, because your thing said
it's crazy. I remember that cutscene. It sounds pretty cool. I don't remember that cutscene.
Where was the guy at?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I left your bookmark in there, but you were like close to the Elwood dimension or right at it. I forget, but you were like 25 hours into the game. So I think you were like building up to do that, maybe, because you met the character, you met Meryl, like you obviously know who I'm talking about when I mentioned her. Yeah.
Oh well. But I have since then I have played all the way through Wild Arms 2, and I tend to do I'll do 3 after Blake does after Blake does 2.
After Blake does
2.
I'm trying to double check.
Yeah. So it seems like you kind of like, aside from it kind of being too long, like you actually, and a couple of things like the lack of equipment, other strange choices for Ultra Code F. It seems like you did actually enjoy.
Once you accept the fact that you're not getting more equipment, but you get more spells and more guardians for still Cecilia. For Jack, you get all the different fast draws, and the leveling them up is its own reward. It's also incredibly difficult if you get too strong too quick, because whenever you use one of the fast draws, how you level it up is it's the distance between the enemy and your level.
Yeah, there's that early golem thing to do,
which is the only time I ever trained, because my guide never once told me to train him again, because the two that I trained, one was called like Buddy Strike, and was called like Singular Strike. One was really powerful, but the other one, the Buddy Strike, is if I had it fully upgraded and I did my the lock on ability, the BP ability.
I thought it was an accelerator. I thought really
Accelerator is what it was called. Yeah. If I triggered Buddy Strike with Accelerator, I hit all enemies at a group. Mm-hmm. And that was the only reason. That's the only move he told me to master. Some of the other ones were really powerful. Like one ignored defense, one did ignored magic defense and all that stuff. But he's like, get this one. And then later on in the game, when I did those that grind on the particular that boss fight was like 30 or 40 minutes, because I had to use everyone's MP. And Buddy Strike fully mastered took 2 MP. And I had Jack with all these what's that stuff? The equipment. The C, you get them in Wild Arms 2. You get a weird
personal skills.
Yeah, the personal skills. But you said those were like particular. These ones I could equip and dequip all these like MP upgrades or counter upgrades and block upgrades and elemental defense upgrades and stuff like that. Counter upgrades. But he had all my I had a specific build that had Jack had all my MP ups. MP1, MP2, MP3 up, and MP, recover MP per turn. And you got to a point, because it was like 45 minutes, those boss fights were, because using Buddy Strike with Accelerator was like 2 MP. Yeah. And so it went forever, which is why he and Rudy got times 10 experience. Cecilia she got like times 5, because she just couldn't. She didn't have an all hitting thing every time.
Yeah, wasn't doing enough damage.
Yeah, well, she did, but it wouldn't kill the enemies all the way sometimes. And you have to. The whole point was to kill all this whole group in one hit, and that whole group in one hit, and then defend and stuff like that. But that was pretty. But it focused more on that and the different cartridges for Rudy. One in particular, for people who haven't played, there's this one called Gatling Raid.
Mm-hmm. It's his main one.
It's the most powerful one in the game, because what it does is you can upgrade his arm. Yes, you can upgrade the crit chance, the attack damage, and like something else, accuracy. And then my guide was like, don't do anything but ammo. Like, I think I upgraded the attack, because his arm is weird. You can only level up 15 times, but then you could reset it as much as you wanted, but you had to pay the price. Because whatever money you spent on it, you don't get that back.
If you stole that out of money, ain't no issue.
Yeah. So a certain point in the game, it was like, you need to upgrade, you need to reset your upgrade and max out your ammo. Mm-hmm. And which got me to, it was like max out your ammo to, above 15. And so I ended up doing like 18, and I bumped the rest into my attack power. And so what Gatling Raid does is it literally makes Rudy fire every single one of his bullets at once at a target, a single target. So you're hitting somebody 18 times. Like I was doing like, near the end of the game. I think I did break damage with Rudy once or twice. I did like 11,000 damage with that 18,000 damage and stuff. I started breaking damage with him at the end of the game, and he just got stupid powerful. But I think that covers everything.
Yeah, you actually feel like you kind of.
Okay, I talked.
The game's a little long-winded, but you enjoyed it. It's kind of my point. Like you kind of get back around to like the stuff you're talking about, the plot points and stuff like that. It seemed like you actually kind of enjoyed the experience more than not.
Yeah, I'm just double checking.
I'll say, it's kind of hard to get your hands on Alter Code F. It's one of those fairly rare, expensive PS2 games. We got a copy somewhere, who knows when, for like $60, maybe on eBay or something like that. Really, if you really like Wild Arms, I guess Alter Code F is nobody talks about as much about Alter Code F as they do Wild Arms 1. I feel like Wild Arms 1 has all the nostalgia.
Everything I read about Alter Code F, people liked it. It got like middling to good reviews. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things, is like, you can't appreciate Alter Code F unless you've played Wild Arms 1. Mm-hmm. And even then, once you play Wild Arms 1, there's really no need to play Alter Code F. Which was a little like, they added a bunch of stuff, but they take away the character, you can't do, they take away the armor, and they take away all this stuff and stuff like that. And they're like, the added story bits, though are cool, are unnecessary. They are fluff. They do drag out. You don't need them to drag out. And so like a lot of the reviews and stuff that I read for it was like, if you love Wild Arms, go play Alter Code F. If you're trying to introduce somebody to Wild Arms, give them Wild Arms 1. Mm-hmm. And let you know, and if they decide on their own they can do it, that's fine. But sometimes it's just easier. Like it's crazy that this happened, that they even bothered to remake. I couldn't figure out.
So strange why
I looked
Alter Code
into
F
it.
exists.
I couldn't really figure out why they chose to remake it the way they did, but they did. It was crazy.
There's no any other PS1 games where the company like next gen'd up and just did a remake. It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not another game that does. Do you think they do another PS1 RPG? We're not counting Final Fantasy VII getting made now, but like the company literally like from PS1 to PS2, like, oh, we're gonna make Wild Arms 1 again.
Yeah.
It's just so strange.
There is one thing I forgot to mention. I should have definitely mentioned. I took a screenshot. I should have mentioned it when I was talking about the composer. Mm-hmm. But they did a bunch of remixes to the songs and stuff like that. They even released a full-blown soundtrack, Alter Code F, for King's Records, and it features originals and the remixes of the original score. And it said, like, a lot of people were like, it's not bad, but some of the remixes aren't worth it. One in particular, people mentioned Critical Hit, which is the battle theme, which is a great battle theme. Mm-hmm. It's the same battle theme. And they're like, yeah, that didn't need to be touched. Critical Hit was perfect the way it was. But she did write new original songs. Yeah. One in particular, this person even quotes is like, Critical Hit, fine as is. Some of the remixes are arguably worse, but some of the new tracks, such as Windward Birds. Reminded me why I fell in love with Michiko Naruka in the first place.
Yeah, that's cool.
So she did write...
She's a great composer. I mean,
she wrote fresh songs for Alter Code F, which is pretty dope. Mm-hmm. But Critical Hit was pretty good. I think Critical Hit was even the song you used on the original...
episode probably the song I played. So Brian maybe picked something besides Critical Hit, or maybe play Critical Hit again.
It's a good song. It's really hard.
It's a good battle.
And one of the other thing I looked up too is I was looking at it's like right here, like a trivia thing, is that the titular F in the title, Alter Code F, is meant to both stand for first and fake. And I don't know why.
Alter Code Fake?
Alter Code First and Alter Code Fake. It stands for fake and first.
This is a weird Japanese thing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was wondering where the Alter Code F name come from.
I think that covers everything. The only thing I wanted to talk about was, we mentioned it earlier, was the with the magic staff. It's probably one of the most messed up things in the game. Yeah. This magic staff is you're having to go around this dungeon to figure out all these people. You're like, we're being attacked by a monster, and people are getting attacked when we shouldn't be, because there's a barrier placed on this dungeon to prevent monsters from getting inside.
Mm-hmm. This is Alter Code F.
It's Alter Code F, and you run around and you're talking to people and you're bonking animals on the head trying to figure out what's going on. And then it's revealed that if a monster is close enough to a human, that the barrier, the magic barrier that prevents monsters from getting in, it won't detect you, because you discover that with Handpan being on Jack's shoulder, like up against his neck, riding Pikachu style, that the barrier didn't affect him and keep him from coming in, because it registered he was so close as a human. Mm-hmm. And the big boss fight for this thing is you're walking around bonking animals on the head trying to talk to them. You come up to this poor dog, and it's awful. The exact dialogue, this dog says, "Help me, something is crawling under my skin." And you're like, what? And then it triggers a boss fight, and you fight this thing called a land anemone, and it's this massive slug tick that erupts from inside the dog, and you're just like, oh my god. Like, once it doesn't show it, but you put the clues together, and this dog just essentially exploded from the inside out. Yeah, with this I'm talking monster, like tick leech
like the thing. Like the thing.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, like that was so, like, I mean, it didn't show it, but it was, violently speaking, it was pretty violent. And then it's one of those things, after you beat the game, after you beat Wild Arms 1, and you do that whole cutscene with Rudy, and you get Rudy healed, when you come back to the game does not tell you. I had to figure out from my guide, he's like, every shop now sells these things called teleport gems. Mm-hmm. they're $100 a piece or $200 a piece. And he's like, buy 99 of them because they allow you to fast travel from city to city.
Yeah.
And it made moving around the game so much faster, but you don't get them until you've technically beat Wild Arms. You've went to every place in the game, essentially.
Yeah, it's crazy. You get it in Wild Arms 2, but you also, I bought a bunch in Wild Arms 2 and then almost immediately got something called a teleport orb, which is just an infinite version.
I didn't get that. I said, every time I'd go, I felt like I got to like down to like about 50. I was like, let me just go stock up again. I basically infinite money at that point.
For sure.
But I think that covers everything for me.
Yeah.
I've hit everything that I wanted to talk about, except... Oh, no, there's just one.
There's always a little bit more.
There's always a little bit more. And this isn't anything in particular. This is just a particular battle animation and noise that I liked.
The block.
I always reference in Battle Chasers Night where I never got tired of the golem. Boom, that solid sounding punch. Yeah. Certain sound effects are just great. One of your personal skills is a thing called blocker. It's just called blocker, and it's actually kind of a high chance. It's like a 15 or a 30% chance to.
That happens a lot.
It happens quite a bit, but it instantly nullifies an attack.
Yeah, seems like almost any attack, or just
physical? It's any attack. It nullifies any damage, from my understanding. It says nullify damage, and so what it does, it do like, because anytime you get a critical hit in this game, it like repeats itself 3 times, like boom, boom, boom. It has like a cool little effect. You know you got a critical hit.
It looks cool.
For backhand, it does the same thing. Where it's like do. It is usually like a 3-shot, but what blocker is your character. I had it on Jack and Rudy. Rudy most of the game was they jump in front of sometimes themselves or a character, because you could also have a thing called you had blocker and then shield. And shield lets you jump in front of an ally and take the hit for them. But sometimes shield would trigger and blocker would trigger at the same time. And so you jump in front of an enemy, and they literally just do, I think it's with their left hand, they just do like a backhand. Yeah. Not like just like a little backhand, and it shines white, and this says nullify. And so it was just a really cool sound effect that happened every time. Yeah. And that was probably one of my favorite things, is whenever it would trigger, and then would trigger that and shield, and Rudy would jump in front of Cecilia or Jack and just like, block, and it was just like nullify damage. And that was really cool.
It's always cool. It's a moment just to stay cool.
And the game does do a thing, like as you get stronger. I only witnessed it early in the game because I ground like a mofo early in the game. In every character's prologue, I got them to level 10. I got them to level 10 before moving on to the story. And getting them to level 10 in the prologue, I was getting hit for 0 damage in prologue. And I was like, this is so cool. But it never happened again. Because the difficulty ramp ups for you getting all your characters and stuff like that. And it just... I never once took 0 damage again, except for when I was at the beginning of the game and going through prologues. Yeah. And after a certain point, that big pivotal point, I think kind of the world levels up. Because I went back to old areas and old dungeons. Because it was like, oh, we need to go talk to all of our friends again to figure out what's going on. And I got into fights. And the ones I didn't win in one turn, I started taking damage. And I was like, oh, that's annoying. Because this is like an area in the beginning of the game. But I think there was some sort of like world level up thing.
Yeah, makes sense though.
Trying to make sure I touched on everything. Humans with weak hearts.
We did better this time. We gave Wild Arms a little more. What'd you say? You listened to the first episode. We gave it like 15
It was
minutes.
like 15 minutes. Yeah.
We did. One. I mean, I didn't have that much more to say, obviously, but you had a lot of notes and a lot of good stuff to say about it.
The only thing I forgot to touch on is back when you save Meryl, and I thought it was really funny, Meryl is being bullied by these 2 rich kids, and you guys are like, you shouldn't pick on her just because she's different. And they're like, what do you know? My daddy's the mayor of the town next door, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to come back and burn this forest down and burn her down because she's not human. And Rudy just walks up to him and backhands him like a pimp, come from the hip. And the kid falls down. It's like, what did you do? And Rudy's just standing there like a silent protagonist. And Jack is basically Rudy's voice because they talk like Rudy talks to them, but you don't hear any of the dialogue. They're like, oh, Rudy, you're such a good friend. You're so, you always say the right thing at the right time. And when Rudy slaps the kid, Jack just goes, oh, you deserved it. And Handpan's like, yeah, you did. And then the kid just runs off. But like you don't find out till later, like he backhanded him like with his he's a cyborg backhanding a little child.
That's hilarious.
Like probably about a 10-year-old kid. Yeah. 10 to 13 backhands him so hard he falls back. you know, and I was just like, that was dope. Rudy don't tolerate idiots.
Don't tolerate bullies.
Yeah, but yeah. That being said, I have touched on everything that I wanted to.
I don't have a rating or anything. I'm getting bad about remembering to write down ratings or anything like that. Do you have an overall rating across both games? Do you have two separate ratings? Do you have ratings at all?
Wild Arms 1 is still good, and with that cheat code, it doesn't, if you don't overdo it like Drew did, then it's a really good cheat code for people who are more modern and don't like grinding.
Well, the main thing you could do is you could just duplicate the lucky cards.
Yeah.
And just use a bunch and just level up a little bit faster.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I did the actual stat items, and I gave everyone, like, like I said, every now and again I'd give myself, well, let me get 5 extra points or 10 points into my thing. And my game was still 2 hours longer than yours, and my levels were like almost 10 different than yours, so I still grinded. I had to get money and stuff like that too. I still enjoyed Wild Arms 1. I like the setting of the world. I like the Trigun vibes and stuff like that. I think it's really good. However, I hate puzzles. I hate having to do puzzle solving in dungeons and RPGs, and that is the majority of the game. It's like half the game, but it is worse in Alter Code F. The stuff that they added to Alter Code F is insane. The fact that it exists is crazy. Re-seeing certain cutscenes that I remembered from regular one in the updated graphics and the new camera angles and stuff like that were really cool. The upgraded, not really upgraded music. That's happened a couple times in games that have been remade. And like, here's rearrangements for the music, and I'm like, no.
Well, it's all across the Final Fantasy VII remake and rebirth. Yeah, you get remixed.
But like you look at Final Fantasy X and stuff, and you can listen to the original or the remixes. I always listen to the originals. I rarely listen to remixes. But the music was good, everything was good. But I agree with what that guy said. Alter Code F is only for people who love Wild Arms 1 and want more Wild Arms 1. If you're trying to introduce someone to Wild Arms, give them Wild Arms 1. Don't Alter Code F. So I will never play through Wild Arms Alter Code F again. Yeah. I just won't. It was too much. They added a bunch of stuff. It was really cool, but it was fluff, honestly. There's a whole bunch of extra fluff. Again, the dungeons were more intense, more crazy, different layouts. I'm just going to give both of them. I'll give them both the same rating, even though it doesn't necessarily apply to Wild Arms 1. But I'm going to give them 6 nullifying backhands out of 10.
Yeah, it's okay RPGs.
Wild Arms 1 is a pretty not awful my first RPG, especially if you can cheat your way through by making your character strong and not grind.
Just play it naturally. You just play it naturally. Yeah. It's not known for being a difficult game. You can just kind of play it naturally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a better episode for Wild Arms 1 and Alter Code F as a bonus. Hope people enjoyed that more than if you have been here at all. If any listeners have been here since our first episode and stuck around for whatever reason, 130 episodes later. With that said, we're gonna wrap this up. But we don't. There's no game next episode necessarily. We are going to have on the next couple of weeks at some point. I'm going to grab Jared and me and Blake. We're going to sit down and have another podcast with Jared Jones of Emerge. To what messages I've been doing with him. He's been busy, I'm guessing, with life and the band. He hasn't been playing a whole lot of games, but we'll probably still bring up video gaming because he does do some gaming. But we'll probably end up talking about Emerge quite a bit because I want to hear about his recent experiences with some of the bands he's been opening up with and stuff like that. It's been really cool past year or so for Emerge, and they've of course got new music coming. So they've had the new song already out, Alive Again. It's called Alive Again.
Alive Again, yeah.
Yeah, so all that stuff. So it's really cool time for Emerge. So we're gonna have Jared Jones on here to talk about that. That's pretty much what episode 130 will be. We'll be all talking about Jared again. And that'll be a good time. He's a really nice guy. He's really excited to come back on here again, just talk music and games and stuff. I think with that said, I forget how to close this out sometimes. Come to our streams. Come to the streams, twitch.tv/Two Smoking Controllers. Just follow that, and when we go live, come on there and hang out and take part in the games. We like at some point, if we ever got a chance, if a game was big enough to have people who listen to the podcast come dabble and play little games with us. Yeah. That'd be kind of cool.
Because we're doing that, I think we're probably with Vermintide, I don't think we're playing anymore, but Darktide, I think we'll probably have a 4th slot that we could have a rotating fan.
somebody wanted to drop in and play with us, we would not be opposed to it as long as you're not cray-cray. I think that's all we got. So catch us this will be out soon, and catch us in a couple of weeks when we have Jared on. Mm-hmm. I got to thank Devious. Obviously thank Jared Jones for letting us use the song "Letting Go" for the podcast. I told you I messed up the closing. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I forget everything. Thank Jared Jones for letting us have this song. We'll probably thank him in person, obviously, again, in Zoom. It's not in person. For letting us use the song "Letting Go" for the podcast. Whew, I got there. And thank Devious.Pixel, a.k.a. Milad Markovic, for all the art for the podcast and being the unofficial face of the podcast. And thank Brian for keep editing these things. He's always happy to help and other stuff like that. He said I'm not putting a spotlight on him. He said he's working on something for the podcast, and he hasn't told me and Blake what it is. He said, don't get crazy about it. I don't know if it's going to be anything, but he's been secretly working on something, even from us, and we don't know what it is. It could be something. It could be nothing. It could be...
Maybe he's going to model us the awesome pair of underwear we've been trying to find someone
maybe
to
he bought some underwear, and he's just going to send us pictures of him in those underwear. We don't know what Brian's doing. Who knows what he's doing? But we're not making any promises on whatever that is. But anyway, I like to shout him out for editing the podcast, and we have a great time playing games with him and stuff like that. That's all I got. So we'll catch you in a couple of weeks with Jared.
I just a little bit of selfless promotion on my part. We did it selfish promotion on my part. We did it earlier. We do have a brother podcast called Suspension of Disbelief, which spun off of this one. It's me and our good buddy Steve. We take turns semi-surprising one another with a movie, and then we don't talk about it at all until we record the podcast, so that each other's opinion doesn't affect the others. So that's pretty cool. Come join us on that. It's called Suspension of Disbelief. It's really fun. And then I have a short story that I self-published on Amazon called They Come This Night. Super proud of that. Mm-hmm. Please go on there, rate and review that. It is free if you have Kindle Unlimited. If you don't have that, it is just $1.
It's a horror story.
It's a horror story, short story. Please, I'm very proud of it. I love it. And with that being said, I do want to wish everybody a good evening and good night.